Hello, this is Megan.
And this is Mark.
Welcome to our 10th video of the Star Wars Land construction at Disneyland.
And we'll also talk about the area that needs to be modified to make room for Star Wars Land, such as the rerouting of the Disneyland Railroad, Rivers of America, and Big Thunder Trail.
Today's June 4th, 2017.
First of all, if we look at the Millennium Falcon show building in the distance, we can see that a third cylindrical structure is being constructed. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. From this perspective, we can see a portion of the three structures. Now let's get a different angle. We can see both the outer portion and the inner portion of the third cylindrical structure. More beams have been added to the Millennium Falcon show building as well. Next, if we slide to the right, here at the Battle Escape location, more concrete forms have been added. Notice that the column rebar have forms around them also. However, here we can tell that the columns will be rectangular rather than cylindrical due to the type of concrete forms that have been put in place. Next, we'll go into Critter Country. More trees have been added to the terrace landscaping. Now we're next to Tarzan's treehouse, and we'll go to the top to get a different perspective. From this perspective, we can see that more holes have been dug to add more trees next to the Critter Country tunnel entrance.
Today is June 10th, 2017.
We're over by Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and if we pan to the left, we can see that the Big Thunder Trail is now open. Let's go check it out. Part of the fence that was originally blocking the access to Big Thunder Trail has been moved to block the entrance to Star Wars Land. Pathway to Fantasyland. We'll continue on. I love the theming and Disney's attention to detail. It is really well done. Here's a light post with a wheel on top. That's really a nice touch. Alright, we'll move on and we'll catch up to Megan. This is truly amazing, the detail of the rock structures. I love the shape of the rocks and how they extend out. It is really nice. Over here we can see wagon wheels, barrels, crates, and there's a lantern on a rock. They kept the train that was originally here in this location before the construction. And it's really cool, this locomotive was used in the 1978 movie called Hot Lead and Cold Feet, starring Don Knotts and Jim Dale. And here's a couple stills from the movie. Across the trail is the entrance to Star Wars Land, the one that's closest to Fantasyland. We'll go ahead and peek through a knothole. From here we can see that the trail is curving to the left, which leads to the tunnel entrance to Star Wars Land. I really like that wood plank wall. It's really detailed and it looks like real wood, even though we know it's concrete. And the trail continues to Fantasyland. Now we'll go back to the other side of the trail. Over here, we can see that a tree is being lifted. Now the tree is being lowered to its new home. If we zoom out, we can see the old mine train tunnel. It hasn't changed, and if you look closely, you can still see jumping fish. Next we'll ride Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. If we look above the wall in the distance, we can see what appears to be spotlights. I wonder if this lighting will be used for show light. Soon we will see. Now if we look to the left, a concrete boom pump is being used to add concrete to the top of the Millennium Falcon show building. Now we're in Critter Country, and we can see that workers are painting the truss bridge dark brown. If we zoom out, we can see the sailing ship Columbia. It's taken a trip on the new track to test it out. We'll get a different angle so we can see it better. That is a spectacular sight. It is really awesome to see it sailing again. Alright, now we'll go back to the parking structure. A beam is being lowered for the Battle Escape show building. On the top level of the show building, a new beam structure has been assembled. And here, another beam is being lowered. A worker is guiding the beam through all the other beams. Now the beam is being put into position. Through the trees, we can see the Mark Twain taking a test run on the new route. That is really cool. On top of the Millennium Falcon show building, workers are smoothing out the newly added concrete. The worker in the middle of the picture is using a power trowel to create a smooth finish to the concrete slab. Notice that a worker is adding water to the concrete slab. Concrete should remain moist for several days to allow it to cure properly. This will give the concrete more strength. Over in the distance, a crane is lifting a tree. Now it's being lowered to its new home. Next, what we'll do is go to the street level and look at the Millennium Falcon show building. Here we can see that pad mount transformers have been brought in. These will be used for electric power distribution. Also from this angle we can see the first two cylindrical structures that were made for the show building. If we look to the right, we have a view of the third cylindrical structure that we viewed from the parking structure. And behind this one, we can see that a fourth cylindrical structure is being made as well.
Today is June 15th, 2017.
On the top level, metal studs are being brought in. Here's a worker installing one of the metal studs to the structural framework. Notice that steel joists are being added to the top level. It's interesting that they're being added without beams being installed on the second level. To me, this indicates that they're creating a very large and tall room. I wonder if it'll be a first-order docking bay. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The steel joists are being welded. Now if we look in the distance, a crane is lifting a rock. The rock is being lowered close to where the Indian village will be. Next, if we look at the Critter Country tunnel entrance, we can see that rails for the railroad have been added. We'll go into Critter Country next and look at the rails from that perspective. If we zoom in, we can see a railroad vehicle pushing a ballast car filled with ballast. Next, we'll go on Splash Mountain to see what we can see from there. Alright, here we are, and we'll look to our left. The railroad ties and rails have been laid out. And if you look closely, you can see the railroad vehicle in the distance. This is what it looked like when the original track was taken out. Support beams are in the process of being added. Now all the support beams have been installed. Next, wood has been placed horizontally on top of the steel beams. This wood is actually some of the railroad ties. Now all of the ties have been laid out. And finally, we can see that all the rails have been installed. We're on Big Thunder Trail, and another rock is being lifted and being lowered close to or at where the Indian village will be. Now if we move down on the trail a little bit, a wooden structure is being built close to the railroad tracks. Workers are putting a side framing in place. The framing is now installed, and the railroad vehicle is making its way back after unloading all of the ballast.
Today's June 17th, 2017.
Tom Sawyer Island is open once again. Here on the island, we're able to get different perspectives of the construction. We can see that the canoes have been brought in. Here's a walking path in Critter Country leading to the entrance to Star Wars Land. This worker is compacting the dirt. Here workers are using a metal straight edge to cut the end of newly added concrete. Notice that a level has been placed on top of the metal to make sure that the straight edge is precisely aligned. The worker presses the straight edge into the concrete. Now the excess pieces of the concrete are removed from the wall. The worker is using a trowel to measure where the top portion of the concrete will be. Now he's using the trowel to cut a section out of the concrete. Next, the straight edge is used so the excess concrete at the top can be removed. The worker pushes the straight edge into the concrete. Notice that the workers are holding a rubber sheet molding, which has a pattern on the side facing away from us. Basically, it's a giant rubber stamp for concrete. The worker in the middle is applying pressure on the sheet. This is done to transfer the texture to the concrete. Now the sheet is removed. The concrete has a textured pattern, making it look like wood grain. Here we can see that more trees have been brought in. The logs underneath the bridge in the center of the picture have been painted brown, and the rocks between the logs are in the process of being colored. We have a good view of the cabin on the island. If we look closely, we can see a worker putting shape and texture to the concrete stones of the chimney. Here's a good view of the old mine train tunnel. On the opposite side of this tunnel is where the Big Thunder Trail is located. Now if we zoom out, we can see the location of the new Indian village. And as you can see, it's located very close to the mine train tunnel. Looking in this direction, we have a good view of the new rock formations that are located to the left of the Indian village. Here's what it looked like before the construction began. This section highlighted in yellow is the section of the island that has been removed. Since this portion of the island has been removed, the moose has been relocated to the left a little bit, and the Indian village has been moved upriver to about here. The yellow dotted line represents approximately where the old river route used to be. As a result of shortening the river and removing some of the island, the new river route is approximately here. Now I'll dissolve the picture back to what it looks like today. From this view, we can see the log that we observed last month from Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Let's get a closer look. The two items on top of the log are the Indian and the dog that were previously there before the construction began. It's great to see that they're bringing them back. Here we can see that workers are adding color to the rock formations. Up near the top of the rocks are workers adding a coating to a wire to make it resemble branches. He sees me across the way, and I'm waving back, and I'm giving him a thumbs up. It is looking nice. Here's a few animals that have been added. A skunk confronting two raccoons. From this angle, we can see the trestle bridge. And it looks like a beaver is having its way with the wood trestles.
Today's June 24th, 2017.
If we zoom in at the cylindrical structure of the battle escape, we can see that the forms have been removed from the concrete columns. Now if we look to the left of the columns, a tunnel has been made. This is what it looked like back in February. Notice the tunnel development leading towards the basement of the show building. It'll be interesting to see how this tunnel will be incorporated in the ride. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now we'll go back to today. Some of the concrete forms for the side structure of the battle escape have been removed, and now we can see the newly created concrete walls. We can also see the forms that were surrounding the columns have been removed. Additional metal studs have been added to the structures at the top of the battle escape show building. I believe these top structures are going to be mechanical rooms for the show building, but we will see. Located in front of these structures, more steel joists have been added. Now if we look at the Millennium Falcon show building, a lot more beams have been installed. Next, we'll go into Critter Country. On the top level of the terrace landscaping, a covered item has been brought in. The shape of this resembles the Indian chief on his horse before the construction began. We'll find out for sure very soon. Next we'll go to Tom Sawyer Island. We can see that deer have been brought in. Notice that each deer is attached to a metal base plate to keep them stationary. And once the deer are in their final position, I'm sure these base plates will be covered with dirt. It's interesting that this deer here has blue tape with writing on it. I'll go ahead and zoom in so we can see it better. It says FA40A. This is probably a reference number that represents the site location for the deer's placement. So this basically lets the workers know exactly where it needs to be placed. Here we can see that the dog has been uncovered. Near the top of the rock structures, a nest has been brought in. To the right of the nest, a branch is extending out. This branch is what we saw a worker putting a coating on last time we were here. Next, if we focus our attention to the side of the river, we can see that plants have been brought in to be planted. Now we're located on Big Thunder Trail. Notice that the wooden structure up by the railroad tracks has been painted and the sidewall has been built. As the sun is going down, locomotive number 1, the CK Holiday, is going through some test runs to see how it performs on the newly created railroad tracks. It is really awesome to see it running again, especially in new territory. Well, that's a taste of things to come.
We can't wait to see what they build next.